The headlights of Jack Turner's battered Chevy sliced through the swirling snow, casting long shadows across the ice-slick road. His tires rasped against packed drifts as he crested the final hill outside Cedar Falls. That's when he saw her, a dark silhouette huddled on the shoulders, shaking in the wind's savage howl. Jack slammed the truck into park, wrenched open the door, and his boots crunched through the fresh powder. The wind cut through his coat like an angry blade as he stumbled forward. There, curled against the white embankment, was a girl no older than 18, her thin sweatshirt soaked and clinging to a rounded belly. Her dark hair masked a face etched with fear. Jack's heart seized. He didn't hesitate. "Hey!" he called over the roar of the storm, voice rough. "You're coming with me." If this snowy rescue hooked you, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss a single chapter of this incredible journey. Jack Turner had never planned on being a hero. A widowed clocksmith with a 10-year-old daughter to raise his life thrummed with predictable rhythms, morning coffee with Lily, repairing antique timepieces in his workshop, and evening stories by the hearth. But tonight shattered every routine. He hoisted the shivering stranger into the passenger seat, brushing clumps of snow from her thin layers. "Just hold on," he muttered, turning the key and wrestling the truck back onto the road. Inside the cabin, warmth hit her like a wave. Jack guided her arm around a damp towel draped over a chair. Lily, clutching a flashlight, blinked awake at the top of the stairs. On seeing the stranger, her eyes widened, but Jack's calm voice halted any questions. "She needs help," he said. "Meet Mia." Lily descended carefully, her blanket trailing behind like a lantern's glow. Mia sank into the chair, eyes darting as if distrust was second nature. Jack returned with steaming bowls of lentil soup. "You must be hungry," he said, setting a bowl before Mia. She cradled it, steam fogging her lashes, and ate in measured spoonfuls. Lily hovered, then offered her favorite storybook, a battered copy of Charlotte's Web. Mia's lips curved in a wry half-smile. "Thanks," she whispered. The fire crackled, filling the silence. Jack rose and retrieved a second blanket. "You can sleep in Lily's room," he said. "I'll take the couch." Mia's shoulders tightened. "I don't want to be any trouble." Jack shook his head. "None at all. You're safe here." Upstairs, Lily set out pajamas and fresh sheets. Mia peeled off her damp clothes and donned the soft flannel shirt Jack had laid out. In the dim glow, she traced the quilt's pattern, breathing deeply. Lily perched on the bed. "I'm Lily. You can call me that." Mia nodded, voice barely a breeze. "Mia." Before sleep claimed them, Lily reached out and took Mia's hand. "My dad's nice." Mia's eyes glistened. "Thanks," she repeated. The next morning dawned pale and silver. Jack was already in the kitchen whisking pancake batter. Lily bounded down the stairs, hair tousled, eyes bright. Mia appeared in the doorway, meeker than yesterday, but curious. Jack flipped a pancake onto their plates and poured maple syrup. "Eat up," he said. "There's wood to chop." Mia joined them at the table, plates balanced on laps. Lily chattered about school friends, a spelling bee lost library books, while Mia listened, blinking at the mention of spelling bees. After breakfast, they donned coats and stepped into the half-frozen yard. Jack handed Mia an axe. "Show me you've got arms." He grinned, and Mia hesitated only a moment before splitting a log on her first try. Lily cheered. Mia laughed genuinely for the first time, and Jack felt something thaw inside him. Back in the workshop, Jack demonstrated clock repair. Mia watched the tiny gears with fascination, fingers itching to touch. "Ever work on clocks?" he asked. Mia shook her head. "I've worked on cars, my mom's." Surprise flickered across Jack's face. "You know your way around machinery?" Mia shrugged. "I learned quick." Their bond deepened over shared tasks, feeding the wood stove, clearing snow, and repairing a battered cuckoo clock. Lily would peek in, offering crayons and paper. Mia sketched tiny bird designs on clock faces, deriving comfort from creation. Jack watched her settle the rigid tension in her shoulders, loosening with each tick-tock of repaired gears. By evening, a routine emerged. Lily read aloud from Charlotte's Web, her voice steady and bright. Mia traced the lines with her fingertip, occasionally correcting Lily's pronunciation. Jack listened from the doorway, chest warm with pride. The storm still raged outside, but inside was a different kind of storm, one of healing connection and new beginnings. Later, Mia rose to fetch her letters, handwritten promises to the daughter growing within her. She hesitated by the hearth hand hovering over the wooden box Jack had shown her. With a determined nod, she tucked a fresh page inside and closed the lid. Jack watched from the shadows, understanding that Mia's journey had truly begun. As Jack turned to blow out the kitchen light, Lily yawned beside him. "Think Mia's okay?" she asked. Jack placed a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. "She will be," he said, "because now she has us." And in that moment, the storm outside felt less formidable than the warmth they'd built and the promise of second chances that would carry them forward. Jack found himself using words he never thought he'd say. "My cabin's just up the road," he called over the wind, tugging Mia to her feet. She eased from the snowbank with surprising grace, knees wobbling beneath her thin jeans. Her fingers were numb, wrapped around the threads of her soaked sweatshirt. "You don't have to," she whispered, voice raw. But Jack shook his head, his breath frosty in the air. "Yes, you do. I can't leave you out here." He half carried her to the passenger side of the Chevy, lifting her legs into the cab as though she weighed nothing. She clutched the seat eyes darting between him and the wipers that battered the windshield. Jack didn't press her for questions. He slammed the door and punched the heater to high, then guided the truck back onto the road. The engine growled into the storm, and the cabin's windows appeared through the white blur like faint beacons. Inside the space was small and fragrant with pine and well-worn cedar. The fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting golden shadows across the knotted wood walls. A row of cedar shingles stacked for winter repairs leaned against one corner. Maisie Jack's daughter sat cross-legged on the couch, a flashlight in one hand and a dog-eared novel in the other. When the front door swung open, she nearly dropped the book. Dad Maisie's voice quivered between curiosity and concern. She was 10, fiercely protective with a shock of curly hair and eyes that missed nothing. Jack set Mia gently on a stool by the hearth and grabbed a towel from the rack. "This is Mia," he said, draping the towel over her shoulders. "She needs somewhere warm." Mia's gaze flicked to the floor. "I thank you," she murmured, voice so soft it could have been swallowed by the flames. Jack cleared his throat. "Soup's on the stove. Help yourself." Maisie hopped up, blanket falling from her lap. She disappeared into the kitchen and reappeared with a steaming bowl held by both hands. "Here." She settled beside Mia, offering a spoonful. Mia looked at her, startled by the small kindness, then accepted a taste. The warmth pooled in her chest. Maisie, smiling shyly, pressed the spoon toward her again. Jack stacked more wood on the fire and turned to find his daughter watching him. "She's pregnant," he said quietly, staring at the flickering logs. Mia's hand tightened on the blanket as though bracing herself. Maisie raised an eyebrow old beyond her years but said nothing. She simply handed Mia a second bowl, making space between them. After they ate in silence, punctuated only by the soup's ladle and the fire's hiss, Jack retrieved a thick wool blanket and draped it around Mia's shoulders. "You can sleep upstairs," he said, voice gentle. Mia paused, chest heaving with a sigh of relief and shame all at once. She looked at Maisie, at Jack, at the cabin's worn comforts, and nodded. Upstairs, the bedroom smelled like lavender sachets and worn flannel sheets. Maisie showed Mia the guest bed where a stack of folded pajamas lay. Mia peeled off her damp clothes and slipped into the flannel shirt Jack had placed on the bed. The fabric was soft, imbued with the gentle aroma of cedar. She sank onto the mattress, tucking her knees to her chest. Maisie perched on the edge of the bed legs, swinging. She opened her mouth to speak, then thought tease. Instead, she leaned forward and placed a hand on Mia's knee. "Good night," she whispered. Mia's eyes filled with tears she hadn't felt safe enough to shed in weeks. She nodded, voice catching. "Good night." Downstairs, Jack let the front door close with a soft click. He found the fire still warm, the cabin's breathing steady. He poured himself 2 mugs of cocoa, one for himself, one for Maisie, and carried them to the kitchen table where he sat alone. Maisie soon joined him, rubbing her arms. "Can you tell me her story?" she asked, voice hushed. Jack stirred his cocoa slowly. "We'll see," he said, admiration and caution mingling in his tone. Maisie nodded, her gaze steady. "Okay." Morning arrived not with fanfare, but a hush, a pale light filtering through frost-lined windows. Jack was at the stove flipping pancakes when Mia crept downstairs in the flannel shirt and jeans that fit like a child's hand covers an adult's. She carried a mug of tea Jack had brewed earlier. She sipped carefully, then offered him the empty mug. Jack shook his head. You keep it. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Maisie chattered about school, her spelling bee, her best friend's family dog, the math quiz she aced. Mia listened, eyes softening with each familiar detail, each ordinary moment she'd lost faith could still exist. When Jack asked, "How do you feel?" she placed a hand on her belly. Cold. Hungry. Thankful. Jack passed her an extra pancake, and Maisie taught her how to fold it into quarters for syrup pooling. Mia laughed, the sound surprising her pure and unguarded. Jack caught Maisie's eye and raised an eyebrow. Maisie shrugged with a grin. They let Mia have that laughter-carving space for light amid her darkness. The day stretched ahead with chores stacking firewood, feeding the stove, clearing snow. Jack assigned Mia to split logs beside him. She lifted the axe and swung the blade, biting into wood with a satisfying crack. Jack nodded approval. Not bad, he said. Mia's lips quirked upward. I'm stronger than I look, she replied, surprising them both. As evening fell, Jack led Mia to the kitchen table, where he kept a wooden box, a keepsake of the family's past. He opened it to reveal folded letters, each addressed to his daughter on birthdays past. Ever write letters to someone you haven't met? He asked, passing her a fresh sheet. Mia hesitated, then accepted the pen. She sat by the fire's glow and began to write to the daughter she carried within, pouring out confessions of fear, promises of love, and hopes for a better tomorrow. Jack watched her in the firelight embers dancing across her face. Maisie sat beside her, arms wrapped around her knees, silent support embodied. The cabin's walls absorbed their quiet, bearing witness to a new family forming in the wake of a single brave act of kindness. When the words dried on the page, Mia folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the box. She looked up at Jack, gratitude mingled with vulnerability in her eyes. Jack offered a small smile. Get some rest, he said softly. Mia nodded, the burden of her journey eased by the shared warmth around her. As the night settled in, the storm still raging outside the cabin's small circle of light held them secure. One woman, two parents, one child born of loss and love. They leaned into the quiet promise that this act of shelter would ripple into every tomorrow they dared to imagine. Morning light slanted through the frost-rimmed windows, painting the cabin's living room in soft gold. The storm had finally eased overnight, leaving drifts of sparkling snow piled against the porch steps and the scent of spruce lingering in the air. Inside, the crackle of the dying fire mingled with the faint hiss of the old kettle warming on the stove. Jack Turner stirred pancake batter at the counter, breathing in the peaceful hush. On the couch, Lily lay curled beneath a patchwork quilt, flashlight still clasped in her small hand, and the dog-eared pages of her book resting on her chest. She dozed mid-story, and the beam of the flashlight still swept gently across the ceiling, as if she were chasing characters through the rafters. Mia slipped quietly toward the kitchen table, her threadbare jeans creaking softly. She spotted a pair of bowls, one floral china and one deep ceramic, waiting by a ladle of steaming oatmeal. Jack turned at the sight of Mia before her feet touched the floor. Morning, he said, voice low but warm. Hot oats. He scooped a generous portion into the deeper bowl and handed it to Mia, who wrapped both hands around the bowl's warmth. The oatmeal swirled with cinnamon and brown sugar ribbons, releasing a comforting steam that fogged her glasses. Lily stirred, then sat up, flashlight clattering onto the cushion. Her hair was mussed, eyes bright with youthful curiosity. Mia's heart wobbled at the sight the 10-year-old's face was framed by curls, and her gaze held a quotient of gentle bravery. "Hi, Lily," said voice small. She slid off the couch and padded to the table, folding the quilt behind her. Jack poured a second bowl of oatmeal, setting it in front of Lily. "Eat up," he said. "Big day." Lily nodded, spoon poised. Mia watched her, wondering what thoughts flickered behind those clear blue eyes. Lily dipped in blue on the oats, then tasted. She chewed thoughtfully, peered over her bowl at Mia, and said, "Thanks for helping Dad last night." Mia froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. She began, but the words tangled in her throat. Lily's face was open, expectant, as if she'd just accepted that strangers sometimes needed saving. Mia swallowed the lump of fear and nodded, letting the spoon clatter softly into the bowl. "You're welcome," she whispered. Jack cleared his throat, breaking the moment. After breakfast, I need you two to help me clear the driveway, he said. Plow's stuck in the snow. Lily raised an eyebrow at Mia, offered a conspiratorial grin, and said, "Want to crash the plow with us?" Mia blinked. She'd never driven a tractor or plow, but Lily's smile was contagious. She found herself nodding before her brain caught up. Yeah, sure. They finished their oatmeal, passing sugar, cinnamon, and milk back and forth. Lily chattered about school, her spelling bee victory, the upcoming winter carnival, the problem she'd had with fractions. Mia listened intently, nodding, asking follow-up questions. Jack watched them from the doorway, pride softening his stern features. Outside, the air was crisp enough to sting lungs, but the sun glinted off the snow in a promise of spring to come. Jack led the way to the shed where the tractor's engine had frozen in a thick crust of ice. Mia wrapped her hands around Jack's oil-stained gloves and helped free the plow blade with Lily's assistance. They worked side by side, laughter arising when the seat collapsed under Lily's weight or when Mia's scarf tangled in the gear shift. Once the plow sputtered to life, its growl echoed through the trees like a triumphant roar. Jack climbed aboard the driver's seat, Lily squeezed in behind him, and Mia hopped up onto the back. Jack guided the plow through drifts taller than Lily's waist, the blade cutting clean paths back to the road. Mia braced herself, enjoying the bump and sway of the tractor, as though it were a roller coaster. Lily let out a delighted shout each time the blade smashed through a heavy snowbank, sending spray in shimmering arcs. When they'd cleared enough for a single lane, Jack cut the engine. They tumbled off in a tangle of scarves and mittens, breathless with exhilaration. Mia's cheeks were bright, and Lily punched her lightly on the arm. "See," she said. "Nothing to be afraid of." Mia's smile wasn't brave, it was real. They trudged back to the cabin, the snow crunching under their boots. Jack held the door for them, and they shook off snow like two new friends emerging from a secret adventure. Inside, warm air enveloped them once more. Lily dropped her boots by the rack, and Mia peeled off her gloves, placing them on the radiator to dry. Jack refilled their cocoa mugs as Lily sculpted a snowman in her mind, telling Mia every detail she planned for Carrot Nose and Pebble Eyes. Mia found herself chattering back, giving suggestions on how to use pinecone buttons. Later by the fire, Lily dozed once more, head resting against Mia's leg, as they all settled into a cozy circle. Jack leaned forward in his armchair, watching the two of them with a quiet smile. Mia stroked Lily's hair, remembering that first morning's frightened glance. Now, in the soft glow of the hearth, she saw no fear, only trust. The bond between them had flickered to life over bowls of oatmeal and shared labor in the snow. Jack cleared his throat gently. "How about some stories?" he asked, reaching for the stack of books on the coffee table. Lily's eyes opened fully this time, sparkling at his words. Mia felt her heart swell at the invitation. As Jack began to read, his voice rich and soothing, the cabin hushed around them. Outside, the world was still locked in winter's embrace, but inside, three lives. Once strangers were weaving into an unexpected family. And in the gentle cadence of Jack's storytelling, Mia realized that whatever tomorrow brought, she no longer had to face it alone. Mia eased into the morning light of Jack Turner's cabin as if awakening from a long, restless dream. The storm had passed, leaving the world draped in crystalline white, but inside was something warmer than any sunbeam. Jack and Lily were already in the kitchen when she crept downstairs. Jack at the counter pouring coffee for himself, and Lily busily buttering toast with the kind of graceful efficiency that only a 10-year-old raised by a single parent could master. Mia paused at the doorway, watching the way Jack handed the mug to Lily with that gentle, everyday care, and somehow it soothed a frayed corner of her heart. Jack beckoned her forward. "Cereal or oatmeal?" he asked. Voice a low baritone that vibrated through the quiet room. Lily didn't look up, but she slid the bowl of oatmeal toward Mia. Same as yesterday, she offered her tone matter-of-fact but kind. Mia nodded, heart fluttering with gratitude. She poured her own bowl, measuring the oats by memory, and stirred in cinnamon and a trickle of honey, just as Jack taught her. Lily's second bowl was already ready when Mia reached across an unspoken acknowledgement that she belonged. For the first time in weeks, Mia let herself settle into a routine that wasn't dictated by fear. After breakfast, Jack grabbed his heavy coat and swung open the door. "Time for firewood," he announced. Lily bounded ahead, scooping fresh logs from the stack by the shed. Mia followed more slowly, adjusting her scarf, and pulling on gloves that Jack had loaned her. She'd never thought she'd be trusted with an axe, but Jack handed it to her without a word. Her grip tightened around the handle, and she felt the weight transfer from the cold of last night into something solid and dependable in her hands. Jack demonstrated a practice swing, watching the blade slice into the wood with a satisfying crack. Mia copied his stance, flexing shoulder and wrist, then brought the axe down. The log split neatly, and they exchanged a look of quiet triumph. With the wood stacked neatly in the shed's lean-to, Mia felt the first real spark of pride since she'd arrived. Proof that she could still be useful, still be strong. Lily skipped back inside, and Jack lingered at the door, his gaze encouraging. Mia stepped into the yard, shoulders squared, as though shrugging off the last vestiges of cold. Each log she stacked was a small truss placed in her each swing of the axe, a measure of the confidence she was learning to give herself again. Inside the cabin's warmth felt richer than ever. Jack stoked the fire, amber tongues licking around the logs. Lily gathered blankets and set them on the couch, then fetched a tray of mugs for Coco. Mia observed the choreography of their morning, Jack's deliberate scrape of wood against Stone Lily's nimble fingers, uncorking the cocoa tin the way she tipped a spoonful of sugar into each mug just so. Mia carried her bowl of oatmeal to the table, but instead of retreating to a corner, she took the chair directly across from Lily. Their eyes met in a moment of shared acknowledgement. No words were needed, only the steam rising between them to affirm that she was welcome. As the day brightened, Jack clapped his hands. "Let's fix that leaky door," he declared. Mia rose to join him, spoon clattering into the bowl. In the entryway, a draft hissed through a crack beneath the threshold. Jack handed her a screwdriver and showed her how to tighten the strike plate. With each turn of the screw, Mia felt the edges of her world click into place. She tightened the last screw and tested the door. It closed with a satisfying thud. Jack nodded, pride shining in his eyes, and Mia nearly glowed with the knowledge that she'd made their home more secure. By afternoon, the sweat in Mia's gloves had evaporated, replaced by the satisfying ache of honest work. Jack guided her to the workshop where an old cuckoo clock awaited repairs. Lily sat nearby on a wooden stool, humming to herself. Jack explained how a missing gear could freeze the mechanism, and Mia peered through the magnifying glass he offered. Her slender fingers plucked the tiny gear from its tray and clicked it into place. When the clock sprang to life, bird chirping, pendulum swinging, Mia felt something inside her click back into motion too. The knowledge that she could build, not just destroy, that she could mend what she once thought broken beyond repair. Evening settled gently over the cabin as they returned to the hearth. Jack lit candles along the mantel, and Lily spread a thick quilt across the floor. Mia curled up against it, the flames dancing across her face. Jack fetched a well-worn guitar from its corner and began to strum a familiar melody. Lily closed her eyes and let the music wash over her, humming along. Mia watched their silhouettes against the flickering glow, realizing that trust wasn't just about tasks. It was woven in moments like this, in shared silence and soft song. Jack's voice joined the guitar, low and comforting, weaving a story of journeys taken and homecomings earned. Mia's gaze drifted to Lily's profile, the way her lips moved in time with the tune. Mia felt the music echo in her chest, urging her forward. Carefully, she uncrossed her legs and scooted closer until her shoulder brushed Lily's. Lily opened her eyes, offered a nod of invitation. Mia leaned in and hummed a tentative harmony, her voice rough at first, then gaining strength. Jack smiled without missing a beat, weaving her note into the chord progression. Together, the three created a fragile but fearless chorus, proof that broken things could be made whole again. When the last chord faded, they sat in a peaceful hush, the only sound the crackle of the logs. Mia realized that every bowl of oatmeal, every log she'd stacked, every clock she'd fixed had brought her here to a place of quiet belonging she almost didn't dare to imagine. Jack rose to refill their mugs, and Lily slid her hand into Mia's, giving it a gentle squeeze. Mia's chest tightened with emotion, but she squeezed back, grateful for the bond taking root. Outside, night fell in a soft blanket of purple and starshine. Inside, the cabin glowed with the promise of tomorrow, a tomorrow Mia once thought she'd never see. As she let the warmth of the hearth seep into her bones, she knew that trust wasn't a gift given once. It was earned every morning over steaming bowls and every evening by the fire, and she was ready to earn it one small act at a time. The wind rattled the cabin shutters like drum beats, a warning that the storm outside was no ordinary snowfall. Jack peered out the window, eyebrows knitting together as thick white curtains billowed across the driveway. "Looks like we've got a full-on blizzard," he said, voice steady but tinged with concern. Lily bounded over, her rosy cheeks pressed against the glass, breath fogging a small circle. "Can we build more snow angels today?" "Dad?" she asked, eyes sparkling with excitement. Mia stood behind them, shoulders hunched, watching the swirling snow with both curiosity and hesitation. Jack turned from the window and offered Mia his hand. "Want to join us? Bundle up?" He nodded toward the hall closet, where thick parkas, wool scarves, and mittens hung like colorful flags. Mia hesitated. Her thin sweater was no match for the storm's fury, but something in Lily's expectant gaze reached out to her. She slipped on the borrowed coat, feeling its weight settle around her shoulders like an unexpected promise of safety. As she tightened the scarf around her neck, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror, a girl she barely recognized. Cheeks, pale eyes, wary. But then Lily reached out to tug her forward, and Mia followed each step, leaving a fresh imprint in the knee-deep drift. Outside the air was a wall of white visibility reduced to a few feet. Jack led the way, breaking trail through the porch's drifts. Lily skipped ahead, arms outstretched, twirling in wide circles as snowflakes clung to her eyelashes. Mia's feet sank with each step, but she pressed on until they reached the clearing beyond the cabin, a wind-swept glade surrounded by tall pines bending under the storm's weight. The world here was hushed, save for the wind's roaring chorus and the soft crunch of their boots. Lily dove backward onto the snow, arms and legs flailing, and let out a squeal of delight. As she rose, she traced her arms through the snow, leaving a perfect angel with a frilled skirt and long, graceful wings. Mia watched for a moment, heart fluttering with an unfamiliar longing. Lily turned and waved her over. "You try?" She called, breath a cloud in the frigid air. Mia opened her arms tentatively and sat down, closing her eyes to the cold that bit through her gloves. She kicked her legs gently, sweeping her arms in slow arcs, then lay back and opened her eyes to the gray sky above. The motion was awkward at first. Her legs didn't rise as high. Her arms scraped harsh lines, but soon she found a rhythm, the back-and-forth motion soothing in its simplicity. When she stood and brushed the residual snow from her coat, she felt something shift inside her chest, a flicker of childish joy that she thought had been lost forever. Jack and Lily stood at the edge of the clearing, their forms blurred by the snow. Lily called out, "Look, Mia, yours is perfect." Mia blinked, then chuckled, a sound so soft and rare it seemed to startle her. She covered her mouth, eyes wide, as she realized she was laughing. Truly, laughing with no weight of fear knotting her chest. The echo of her laughter bounced off the snowy pines, a pure note in the storm's white noise. Lily danced closer, arms raised, and together they marveled at the pair of angels glowing on the ground. Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, holding it aloft. "Group photo," he shouted against the wind. Lily sprinted back to stand beside Mia, matching coats, mittens like tiny boats, and Jack took a quick snapshot. When the flash went off, a halo of light bloomed for a moment, catching every snowflake in midair. Mia peered at the photo, then at Jack, and winked. In that instant, she felt part of something larger than her own survival. She was woven into a new story, one where laughter could bloom even in the midst of a blizzard. They spent the next hour running through the clearing, Lily showing Mia how to make snowballs, Mia returning the favor with soft, gentle throws that landed like powder puffs. Jack joined in the three of them, an impromptu team battling imaginary foes with snow missiles and fits of giggles. At one point, Lily perched atop a drift and declared herself queen of the snow, and Mia bowed in mock reverence, delighting Lily with her theatrical flourish. Eventually, Jack called a truce. "Warm up inside," he said, voice breathless. Lily and Mia trudged back, faces flushed and clothes damp. Jack opened the door and they tumbled into the cabin like souvenirs of the storm, leaving tracks of white behind them. The warmth hit Mia immediately, a closing of winter's vice. Lily peeled off her gloves and flung them toward the wood stove, where they landed in a soft spray of embers. Mia shook the snow from her hem and followed Lily to the hearth, then sank into an armchair that enveloped her in comfort. Jack bustled in with a kettle of hot cocoa, and Lily grabbed mugs for them. Mia wrapped her fingers around the ceramic, drinking in the sweet, steaming liquid that felt like a homecoming in a cup. The fire crackled, sending tendrils of warmth across the room and tenderly chasing away the chill in Mia's bones. Lily snuggled under the quilt beside her, and Mia leaned in, head resting against Lily's shoulder as they sipped in companionable silence. "Thanks," Mia said finally, voice low but genuine. Lily looked up, eyes bright. "You're welcome," she replied, and her smile was like a sunrise after endless night. Jack settled in across from them, legs curled under himself, and picked up his guitar. He strummed a gentle chord, one they'd learned together, and Lily joined in with a hum. Mia closed her eyes and let the music wash over her, a lullaby of belonging she'd never known she needed. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the cabin was a world entirely their own. For the first time since she'd arrived, Mia felt her fear melt away in the snow's wake, replaced by laughter and the unspoken promise that no matter how fierce the blizzard, she would never face it alone again. The fire crackles low in the stone hearth, sending warm flickers across the knotty pine walls of Jack Turner's cabin. Outside, the last embers of the blizzard swirl against the windows, but inside there is only the soft glow of the flames and the hush that follows an evening of shared laughter. Jack sits in his favorite armchair, guitar resting across his lap, fingers idly brushing the strings. Lily is curled on the rug, tracing shapes in the braided fibers with her fingertips, eyes heavy with sleep, but unwilling to slip into slumber. And Mia sits on the couch, knees drawn to her chest, a well-worn notebook open on her lap. Jack watches her for a moment, heart tugging with a mixture of anticipation and gentle worry. Earlier tonight, when Lily drifted to sleep, Mia slid the notebook into Jack's outstretched hand. "I've been writing letters," she said softly, voice barely rising above the fire's whisper. "To her, my daughter." Jack flipped through the pages, careful not to disturb the inked lines, and found a folded sheet marked by a single red heart. He handed it back without comment, trusting that when Mia was ready, she'd share the words. Now, under the candlelight and crackling warmth, Mia's fingers trace the edge of that letter. She inhales, steadying herself against the weight of her own courage, and looks up at Jack. "I want you to hear them," she says, voice quavering just slightly. Jack sets aside his guitar, leans forward, and nods. "Whenever you're ready," he replies, eyes soft with respect. Mia smooths the paper, unfolds it, and clears her throat. The cabin holds its breath as she begins to read. "Dear Hope, I don't know if you'll ever read these words, but I need you to know who I was before you came along. I was scared, terrified really, of everything that lay ahead. I thought I had nothing left to give, but then I found the courage to step into that storm, into a stranger's truck, because I believed in something better. I believe in you." Jack shifts in his chair, the wood groaning beneath him, and Lily leans forward, propping her chin on her hands. Even in sleepiness, her gaze is steady, understanding beyond her years. Mia continues, voice growing stronger with each sentence. "There are days when shame sits on my chest like a stone, and nights when I can't sleep for fear I'll fail you before you even arrive. But I want you to know this. I love you more than I ever thought possible. You are the best part of me, the flicker of light that kept me moving when I thought everything was lost." Her hands tremble as she turns the page ink smudged at the corners where tears have fallen. Jack rises and sets a comforting hand on her shoulder, but Mia doesn't pause. "I promise to teach you how to laugh, how to trust, and how to find warmth even when the world feels cold. I promise to hold you when you cry, to steady you when you falter, and to celebrate every small victory as though it were the greatest triumph in the world." Lily's eyes glisten with unshed tears. Jack swallows, throat tight. He can feel the power of Mia's words echoing in the cabin, weaving into the fabric of their newfound family. Mia takes a breath but doesn't close the notebook. She lifts her gaze to Jack's vulnerability and resolve shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispers, voice catching. "Thank you for giving me a place to write these letters, for giving me hope when I thought I had none." Jack kneels in front of her, gently closing the notebook. "Thank you," he echoes, "for trusting me with your words and with your heart." He glances at Lily, whose small hand reaches out to touch Mia's knee, a silent pledge of solidarity. Mia allows herself a slow exhale. The tension that held her shoulders rigid in anticipation seems to melt away, replaced by a warmth that rivals the hearth. She sets the notebook on the coffee table, closes it with tender care, and looks around the cozy room at the fire, at Lily's expectant face, at Jack's steady presence. "Can we—" Mia's voice trails off as she searches for the right words. Jack offers a smile so gentle it glows in the firelight. "You can stay here," he says simply, "for as long as you need." At that, Lily smiles and reaches for Mia's hand, lacing their fingers together. "We're your family," Lily says. Her words hang in the air, softer than a lullaby, but more powerful than any decree. Mia's eyes fill with tears of relief and gratitude. She nods, voice small, but certain. "I want that." Jack stands and crosses to the hearth, pulling a fresh log onto the embers. The flames leap up, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Mia, Lily, and Jack settle into their places, the three of them bound by shared trust and unspoken promise. Later, when the cabin grows silent and the only sound is Lily's gentle breathing on the couch, Mia retrieves her notebook once more. She writes one final line for tonight. "You are loved. Hope beyond measure." She places the letter back in the wooden box on the mantel, the same box that holds Jack's memories and Lily's laughter. As she closes the notebook for the night, Mia feels something she hasn't felt in a long time. Hope that extends beyond the page, beyond her solitary fears, into the warmth of a family that chose her. And in that hush before sleep, the fire's glow seems to whisper back in reassurance, "You are home." The storm outside had dwindled to a moan by the time Mia first felt the sharp stab of pain. She awoke in the hush between dark and dawn, breath hitching as the ache tightened around her belly. For a moment she lay still, listening to the old cabin settle, a floorboard, groaning wind rattling the shutters, the far-off roll of thunder. Then another wave hit stronger, and she knew herself in labor. Mia blinked awake Jack Turner, who was dozing in the armchair by the fire. His guitar lay across his lap, a testament to the music that had brought them together, but now it was abandoned in favor of urgent care. Jack stirred, eyes bleary but instantly alert when he saw Mia clutching the edge of the couch. "Mia," he whispered, voice thick. "Are you okay?" She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to steady her breath. I think it's time," she managed. Fear laced her words, but beneath it lay steely determination. Jack rose, careful not to wake Lily, and guided her to the guest room at the end of the hall. The candles he lit there cast elongated shadows on the walls. The flickering glow made every corner seem alive with movement. He laid fresh blankets on the bed and handed Mia a glass of water. She drank each swallow, trembling against another contraction. "I've never—" Jack began, swallowing hard. "Delivered a baby." Mia gave him a fierce, weary smile. "Neither have I," she whispered. "But we'll do this together." The wind ramped up outside, rattling the windows with a renewed fury. Jack dashed to the fireplace and added more logs, the sparks dancing up the chimney like sparks of hope. He returned to Mia's side just as another contraction tore through her. She gripped the headboard, knuckles white. Jack knelt beside her, hands outstretched. "Tell me how I can help," he said gently. Mia exhaled, body shaking. "Support me," she whispered. "Don't let me fall." Jack slid behind her, arms wrapped around her waist, his chest pressing against hers to anchor her trembling form. He breathed with her, inhale, hold, exhale, and counted each wave until the pain ebbed enough for Mia to find words. "The bag," she gasped. "It's in the next room." Jack rose swiftly and returned with the emergency kit, a collection of clean towels, scissors, and sterile gloves. He set them out on a small table and washed his hands at the sink, water cold but necessary. Mia watched, trusting him with each precise movement. When Jack slipped on the gloves, he looked up at her and she nodded, eyes fierce with gratitude. Another contraction seized Mia, stronger than before. She knelt on the bed, hands gripping the mattress, forehead slick with sweat. Jack supported her from behind, whispering encouragement. "You're doing great. Just breathe." His voice was calm even as his heart thundered. He placed a firm hand on her back, guiding her through each breath, each push. The cabin's walls seemed to lean in the fire's glow, softer now, as if bearing witness to this moment of radical trust. Then came the unmistakable shift, the sudden burn of progress. Mia's breath caught, and she looked at Jack, eyes wide. "I think—" she gasped, voice breaking. It's time. Jack braced himself. Okay, he said, voice steady. He slipped the towels beneath Mia's hips, readying for the baby's entrance into the world. Mia closed her eyes, summoned every reserve of strength, and with Jack's steady hands guiding her, she gave a powerful push. The world narrowed to that single moment of release, pain, sweat, ache, and then a new raw sound, a small cry sharp against the thunder's distant rumble. Jack caught the baby in his gloved hands, cradling her wet, wriggling form. It's a girl, he breathed, turning to Mia with wonder. Her exhausted smile was radiant. He carried the newborn between them, placing her gently on Mia's chest, skin to skin. The tiny cry softened as the baby curled into Mia's warmth, eyes squeezed shut. Beach blonde hair dusted with lanugo arms curled against a life she'd just claimed. Mia reached down to cradle the baby's head, tears trailing down her cheeks. Emma, she whispered, voice thick. You're Emma. Lily appeared in the doorway, eyes huge in the candlelight. She crept forward barefoot in her pajamas and peered at her mother and new sister. Mia's face broke into a tired laugh. Come meet your sister. Lily tiptoed onto the bed, crouching beside Mia. She reached out a trembling hand and brushed Emma's cheek. Hi, Emma, she said softly. I'm Lily. Jack covered them with a linen blanket, his own eyes misting. He gently cut the cord and tied it, tucking the baby close to Mia. The fire crackled in approval, and the cabin settled into a hush more sacred than any church. Outside, the storm's fury was forgotten. Inside, only the promise of new life remained. Lily sprawled beside Mia, propping her head on the quilt. Mia cradled Emma against her breast, humming a lullaby Jack had taught her. The three of them, mother, sister, midwife, sat in a circle of warmth that defied any blizzard. Jack watched from the doorway, his reflection a blur in the flickering firelight. Thank you, Mia whispered, voice so quiet it could have been a prayer. Jack stepped forward, placing a gentle kiss on Mia's forehead. You did amazing, he said, voice full of awe. The storm outside raged into the night, but inside the guest room, Emma lay in Mia's arms, her cries silenced by the soft hymn of life. Jack and Lily formed a protective arc around their fragile family, and in the quiet aftermath of labor, they discovered that even in the dead of night, love could be born, and that hope, once delivered, could light the darkest storm. Emma's first cry broke through the howl of the wind like a bell in the night, a single keening note of fierce insistence. The cabin's rigid walls shuddered as though startled, and outside the storm seemed to pause in mid-roar snowflakes suspended in the air. Jack Turner felt the sound cut straight through his chest, stitching an unexpected thread of joy and relief into every frayed nerve. He blinked back the haze of fatigue and fear staring as Mia drew the newborn closer, cradling her trembling body against the dough-soft swell of her own. The fire's golden glow flickered across Emma's wet skin, revealing the first sparks of life in her scrunched face and wrinkled brow. Lily, half asleep on the edge of the bed, stirred eyes widening as she realized the miracle unfolding before her. She slid off the mattress and stepped forward, trembling, until she stood beside her mother and the new baby, the three of them forming a small circle of light amid the darkness. Jack knelt at Emma's tiny head, reaching for a soft cotton blanket folded on the bedside table. He wrapped the blanket around Emma's shoulders, cocooning her in warmth. The baby's cries softened to a whisper as Mia smoothed the blanket's edge and laid Emma gently against her breast. Mia's fingers trembled on Emma's back, tracing slow, soothing circles. Shh, she murmured, voice thick with awe. You're safe now. Emma's cries faded to contented sighs, punctuated by tiny yawns that stretched her mouth into the shape of a rosebud opening. Jack drew a small stool to Mia's side and sat. His shoulders slumped with the weight of every denied hope he'd carried. He lifted his gaze to Mia's face, eyes glistening in the firelight. She's perfect, he whispered, voice cracking under the tenderness. Mia tilted her head, tears brimming in her lashes. She's ours, she replied, and her words were a benediction on the storm. Outside, the wind resumed its pounding, but inside they remained cocooned in their own world, heedless of the white tempest that raged beyond the door. Lily crept closer, her small hand reaching out to stroke Emma's soft cheek. The baby's skin was warm under her fingertips, and Lily's eyes shone with wonder. She's beautiful, Lily said, voice hushed. Mia offered Lily a gentle smile. She is, Mia agreed. She's brave just like you. Lily's chest swelled with pride, and without thinking, she leaned forward to press a kiss to Emma's forehead. Jack watched the two of them, mother and daughter, big sister and newborn, and felt an unexpected lightness. He lifted a hand to cradle Lily's shoulder. "Thank you," he whispered, "for being here." Lily nodded shyly, turning back to Emma with a soft hum that echoed against the cabin's timbers. As the night deepened, Jack rose to stoke the fire. The flames flared and settled their gentle roar companion to Emma's quiet breaths. He glanced back at Mia, seated on the bed, with Emma snuggled against her chest. Mia's hair was loose, falling around her face in dark waves. Her eyes were luminous, with a mixture of awe, fatigue, and a surge of fierce love. Jack dared to slip closer, wrapping an arm around both living wonders before him. He rested his cheek against Mia's temple, breathing in the faint scent of her sweat in relief. Lily settled on the floor at Mia's feet, folding her legs beneath her and leaning against Jack's knee. She propped her chin on her own hands and stared up at Emma, eyes wide but calm. The three of them, Mia, Jack, Lily, clustered around Emma in an embrace that spoke of ancient human truths, that in the smallest forms could bloom the greatest hope, and that love's reach could surpass fear's grip. A lull settled in the cabin as Emma's breath slowed and deepened. Mia shifted on the pillow, planting a tender kiss on Emma's forehead. "I'm so sorry I doubted," she whispered, voice thick. "I'm so glad you're here." Emma responded with a tiny stretch, her hands forming minuscule fists, and Mia pressed her cheek to Emma's again, tears slipping onto Emma's crown. Jack reached out to smooth back a stray lock of Mia's hair. "You were brave," he said, voice firm. "You've given us all a gift." He glanced at Lily, whose silent vigil had become a cradle of protection. "And you," he added gently, "you're the best big sister we could ask for." Lily looked up, eyes shining, and nodded, grinning so brightly it rivaled the hearth's sparkle. The storm outside clattered against the roof, but inside the rhythm of new life held them fast. Jack rose and padded to the small table where the midwife kit lay abandoned amongst stray towels. He gathered the supplies, scissors, clamps, sterile cloth, and packed them away, each fold a ritual closing of the night's urgent chapter. He returned to stand behind Mia, resting his hand on her shoulder like a steadfast anchor. "Let me help you," he murmured. Mia tilted her head, offering him Emma's head to cradle, while she readied her arms for breastfeed. Jack accepted with reverence, lifting Emma gently as Mia adjusted. With practiced care, Mia latched Emma to her breast, and the baby's small mouth found its nourishment. Emma's suckle was soft, rhythmic, as if she'd practiced in her dreams. Mia exhaled, shuddering with the release of every held-back fear and doubt. Lily crawled up beside them, forging her own space on the bed, and rested her cheek against Mia's knee. Jack knelt at Lily's side, glancing up at the three women who had turned his solitary cabin into a home overflowing with purpose. "We should call the clinic in the morning," he said softly, "just to let them know she's okay." Mia nodded, her free hand brushing Jack's. "Yes," she agreed. "In the morning." For now they were enough, three hearts beating in tandem and one new heartbeat weaving a fourth thread of life. Jack pressed a soft kiss to Lily's hair, then reached to wrap an arm around Mia's shoulders, still holding Emma. The three of them sat in quiet harmony, the cabin's warmth enfolding them as the storm outside lulled into a distant rumble. Mia closed her eyes, listening to Emma's gentle suckle, Lily's peaceful breath, and Jack's steady heartbeat at her side. In that sacred hush, she felt the embodiment of every promise she'd ever dared to make to protect her child, to forge a family from strangers, and to trust in the unpredictable beauty of life's unfolding. The storm could rage on, but in their circle of light, they had found the calm that only new beginnings can bring. The first green shoots pushed through the melting snow before Mia dared to believe spring had truly come to Cedar Falls. One morning, she found herself standing on the porch, cradling Emma against her chest. In a light cotton wrap, the sun washing the yard in pale warmth for the first time in months. Lily ran past, chasing a robin song, curls bouncing as she laughed. Jack hovered nearby, clearing away a leaning pile of firewood. Together they watched the world thaw frozen drifts, receding into patches of wet earth buds swelling on maple branches, the promise of renewal unfolding around them. Inside the cabin, the wooden box of letters sat on the mantel, dusted with pollen from the open windows. Mia touched its carved lid, and remembered the snowy night she'd written her first desperate words to Emma. Since then, she'd added pages filled with hope and regret stories of fear turned to faith. Today, she carried a crisp envelope in her pocket, its sender's stamp from the state university program she'd applied to months before. She'd almost forgotten the application in the urgency of new motherhood and new trust, and now it had arrived like a sudden gust of wind reshaping everything. Jack entered the living room as Lily scampered up the stairs. "Got the mail," he said, handing Mia the envelope. His voice was gentle, curious. She turned it over, finger brushing the seal. The words nursing and accepted leapt at her, making her heart pound so fiercely she wondered if Lily could hear it. Mia's hands trembled as she slit the envelope. Jack leaned forward, placing Emma, a quiet cooing bundle, into Lily's eager arms to watch. Mia unfolded the letter, scanning the typed lines. She read it once, saw the words, "Congratulations and scholarship support," and then read it again, each syllable heavier than the last. A year of classes, clinical rotations, dorm housing arranged out of state. The kind of life she had once dreamed of but believed was closed to her. Now it stretched before her like an uncharted horizon, beckoning, daunting, irresistible. Jack watched her eyes flicker over the text. He reached out, brushing her fingers with his thumb. "That good news?" he asked quietly. Mia swallowed, voice-catching. They accepted me." She stared up at him with a half-smile that trembled with uncertainty. Jack's eyes shone with pride. "That's incredible," he said. "I always knew you'd do great things." Mia closed the letter and tucked it into her apron pocket. "But it means leaving," she said, voice soft as a winter thaw. She glanced at Emma, nestled in Lily's arms, observing her with wide, curious eyes. "Leaving you both. I don't know if I can do it." Before Jack could answer, Lily bounded in, cradling Emma as though she were the most precious treasure in the world. "Mom! Mom!" Lily exclaimed, setting Emma on Mia's lap. "Look what I drew." She handed over a sheet of paper, a family portrait. Jack with messy hair and a guitar slung over his shoulder, Mia with Emma in her arms, and Lily standing in a field of flowers under a bright sun. Above them, in childish letters, was written, "Family Forever." Mia blinked away tears she hadn't realized were waiting. She swept Lily into a hug, then pulled Jack and Emma close for a family embrace. In that circle of arms, she felt the pull of home warp around her, gentle and unbreakable. Yet the letter in her pocket called to her too, whispering that Emma deserved a mother with purpose, and Lily, a role model who reached beyond her fears. Over the next week, Mia kept busy with routines, feeding Emma, teaching Lily to balance on a new bike in the driveway, helping Jack prepare clocks for repair, and cooking dinner by the dwindling hearth. But every moment her thoughts drifted to that letter. At night she sat in Jack's old rocking chair, Emma snoozing against her chest, and traced the envelope's creases with her fingertips. She imagined the long dorm halls, the sterile scent of hospitals, the hum of fluorescent lights. She saw herself in a crisp uniform, confident and capable Mia, the nurse saving lives. One evening, Lily found her there. "Mom, are you sad?" Lily asked, hugging her mother's legs. Mia looked down at her daughter's concerned face and knelt, brushing green grass from Lily's socks. "I'm a little scared," she admitted. "It means I'd be gone for days at a time." Lily's shoulders drooped and she grasped Mia's knee. "But you say I can do anything," Lily reminded, her voice trembling with the weight of that lesson. "I think you can do this too." Mia pressed her hand to Lily's cheek. "You're right," she said. "I taught you that so you'd know you can face anything. Now it's time I believe it for myself." Lily smiled bravely, wrapping her arms around Mia's waist. Emma kicked sleepily at Mia's side as if cheering her mother on. That night, Mia sat Jack down by the fire, the letter unfolded on the coffee table. "I'm going," she said softly, fear and determination mingling in her eyes. Jack's face fell, but he masked his disappointment with a nod. "I know," he said. "It's an incredible opportunity." Mia crossed to him and pressed her hand to his cheek. "I don't want to leave you alone," she whispered. Jack took her hand and folded it against his heart. "You'll never be alone," he replied. "We're a family now. We'll make this work, visits, holidays, video calls." He gave her a gentle smile. "And Lily will need her mom to show her how strong she can be." Mia felt tears sting her eyes. She looped her arms around Jack's neck. I'm going to miss this, she murmured, voice quivering. I'm going to miss us. Jack rested his forehead against hers. Me too, he said. But I'll be here building clocks, making pancakes, and telling your daughter every day that you're the bravest person I know. Mia closed her eyes, letting his words settle into her bones. The next morning, Mia packed her duffel bag in the spare room they'd set aside for Emma's early naps. She folded Lily's favorite blanket at the top, placed Emma's knitted cap on the pillow, and tucked the letter into the front pocket for safekeeping. Lily stood by the doorway, clutching a tiny box tied with ribbon. For when you get homesick, Lily said, voice firm. Mia unwrapped it to find a simple charm bracelet, each charm a tiny clock, a rocking chair, and a snowflake. Mia knelt and slipped it onto her wrist. Now I'll carry you all with me, she said, tears shining in her eyes. Lily nodded solemnly. Always, she whispered. Jack watched from the end of the hall, Emma in his arms. Time to go, he said gently. Mia took a steadying breath, placed Emma against her chest, and hugged Jack. She kissed Lily's cheek, and Lily pressed her forehead to hers. Then with their hands in hers, first Jack's, then Lily's. Mia stepped out of the cabin and into the bright morning sun, the path ahead uncertain but lined with the warmth of the home she carried in her heart. Jack Turner never spoke of the tightness in his chest. Not to Mia when she left for nursing school. Not to Lily when she asked why Dad was always tired by dinner time. And certainly not to Emma, who at 13 months nestled against him for her afternoon nap. He'd learned long ago to keep his pain private, to cradle it like a secret that might scare the people he loved most. But one evening, as he bent to gather logs for the stove, the ache in his chest flared into a crushing weight. His vision blurred, and he crumpled to the floor, hand pressed against the cold wood plank, breath rattling in his throat. It was Lily who found him first. She'd been practicing piano in the living room when she heard the thump. She ran into the hallway shape framed by candlelight and stopped at the doorway barefoot and wide-eyed. Dad, she called, voice small. Jack's head lolled to the side. Lily's breath caught, and she scooped up Emma, who'd been toddling behind her, and hurried outside to the neighbor's house for help. Within minutes, the cabin's warmth was broken by flashing blue lights. A paramedic team fluttered through the door, voices calm but urgent as they assessed Jack. Mia, halfway through her final clinical rotation, was in the middle of an incision prep when her phone buzzed 3 times. She glanced at the caller ID, Lily's number, then at her supervising nurse. I have to go, Mia whispered, heart pounding. The nurse's eyes held understanding. Cancer had taught her the same. Mia scrubbed out, tossed on a coat, and bolted through hospital corridors. Back at the cabin, the medics loaded Jack onto a stretcher, secured him in the ambulance, and Lily climbed into the rear compartment with Emma in her arms. Tears streamed down Lily's cheeks as she whispered, "Please be okay, Dad." Emma's new daughterly babble was a soft counterpoint, a hopeful echo of life's persistence. Mia raced through the streets, sirens wailing in her mind as much as the ones that passed her on the road. She reached the hospital's emergency entrance just as the ambulance doors swung open. Jack lay pale on the gurney, eyes closed, a bead of sweat on his brow. Lily stood on her tiptoes, pressing a kiss to his temple. Emma clutched in one arm, Blanky in the other. Mia dropped her bag and rushed over. "Dad," she cried, slipping between the paramedics to grasp his hand. He opened his eyes, recognized her face, and managed a weak smile. "Mia, my girl." His voice was a rasping whisper. Lily sobbed. Emma blinked solemnly. The paramedics wheeled him into the trauma bay. Mia held Jack's hand the whole way. Lily followed, pressing Emma's chubby cheek against Jack's shoulder. Inside, everything was bright and sterile. Heart monitors beeped steadily, IV lines snaked like lifelines, and a cardiologist introduced herself. Mr. Turner suffered acute decompensated heart failure, she explained. Voice gentle but devoid of pity. "We need to stabilize him, then run tests." Mia nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Whatever you need," she said, voice firm. Lily slipped Emma into Mia's arms, and they stood together as Jack was prepped for tests and medication. Hours passed in a blur of EKGs, echocardiograms, and gentle reassurances from nurses who recognized Mia's medical background. Lily dozed in a corner chair with Emma clutching her finger. Mia hovered by Jack's side, brushing back his damp hair, leaning in close to whisper updates. His vitals are stabilizing, she murmured. You're doing great, Dad. At last the cardiologist returned. We've placed him on diuretics and IV inotropes. He's stable, but this will need ongoing management. Mia exhaled, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease just enough to stand. Lily let out a sleepy sigh and hugged both Mia and Emma tight. He's going to be okay, right? Lily asked, voice small. The cardiologist offered a kind smile. He's strong, and he has you both. That's half the battle. Jack lay in the hospital bed, tubes taped to his arm and leads across his chest, but his eyes shone when he saw Mia and Lily together at his side. My girls, he whispered, voice thick. Mia flanked him, one hand on his shoulder, the other squeezing Lily's. Emma babbled in Mia's arms as though offering her own brand of encouragement. Over the next day, Mia shifted from daughter to nurse, checking Jack's chart, administering medications under a nurse's supervision, and advocating for his care. Lily was his constant companion, drawing pictures of hearts and snowflakes to tape to the wall. Each morning, Jack woke to Lily's grin, Emma toddling over to hand him a sippy cup, and Mia brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. The crisis that loomed had become a chapter in their story of resilience. Jack's heart was fragile, but so was life, and love, Mia realized, could be the strongest medicine of all. When the attending physician finally gave Jack permission to sit up and try a short walk down the corridor, Mia and Lily guided him, Emma in her stroller behind them. With every step, Jack regained a little more of his former self, buoyed by the laughter of his daughters and the fierce devotion in their eyes. By the time they prepared to leave the hospital, Jack was weak but smiling. The nurse gave Jack a schedule for medication and follow-up appointments. Mia tucked Lily and Emma into the hospital wheelchair, and Jack held onto Mia's hand as they rolled toward the discharge desk. Outside, the spring sun smelled of blossoms and new beginnings. Lily pressed her cheek against Jack's arm and whispered, "Welcome home, Dad." Emma reached up to pat his chest, and Mia slipped an arm around his waist, steadying him. Jack looked at his family daughter-grandchild and daughter-in-love bound not by blood, but by the unbreakable fiber of love. He took a deep breath, the crisp air filling his lungs like a promise. "Thank you," he said, voice strong. "Thank you for saving me." Mia kissed his cheek. "You saved us too," she replied. Lily grinned, and Emma cooed in agreement. As they stepped into the sunlight, Jack Turner's collapse felt less like an ending and more like a call to begin anew. A reminder that family isn't defined by lineage, but by the love and sacrifice we offer one another. And in that moment, they carried each other forward, stronger together, and forever bound by the night when love proved more powerful than any storm. The gravel crunched under their tires as the Turner family's van trundled up the familiar drive, the cabin's peaked roof peeking through budding maples dusted in early spring green. Jack sat in the passenger seat, his gait steady now, though the cane still leaned against the dashboard, a souvenir of the night he nearly lost everything. In the back seat, Mia cradled Emma, who blinked sleepily at the swaying trees beyond the window. Lily chattered in the middle arms wrapped around her mother's weighted bag, brimming with uniforms and stethoscope textbooks and baby wipes. When Jack swung open the front passenger door, the scent of pine and wood smoke greeted them like an embrace. Lily leapt out, skidding in her sneakers to the porch steps and throwing her arms around Jack's waist. "Welcome home, Dad," she exclaimed. Jack knelt to hug her, ruffling her curls. "Missed you," he said, voice thick with affection. Mia eased out of the van, Emma tucked against her chest in the soft wrap, and breathed in the cabin's warmth even before the door clicked shut behind her. "Home, sweet home," she murmured. Lily bounded inside ahead of them, pressing her face to the window, watching for movement by the hearth. Inside the hearth glowed with embers that Jack had tended earlier that morning. The wooden box of letters and mementos still rested on the mantel, alongside a row of framed clocks ticking in harmony, each one repaired by Jack's hand. Mia set her bag and textbooks on the dining table and knelt to unbuckle Emma's harness. Emma reached for the quilt draped over the couch, her small fingers grasping at its fringe. Lily scooped the baby up and carried her to the hearth, placing Emma gently onto the rug, where her eyes widened at the dancing flames. Jack stepped into the kitchen and flipped on the kettle, the hiss familiar and comforting. Mia sank into the armchair near the stove, Emma settling on her lap, and closed her eyes for a moment, grateful breaths filling her lungs with the scent of home. Lily ran in with a bowl of fresh strawberries, giggling as she dropped a few into Emma's chubby hand. Emma plucked them one by one, marveling at their redness, and popped the first into her mouth with a sticky, sweet squeal. Mia smiled, lifting Emma's chin to catch her eyes. "Growing strong," she said softly. Lily bounded back to help Jack pour tea. Together they sat in the quiet hum of the Cabin family reunited whole. It wasn't long after their return that Mia's nursing diploma arrived in the mail, a crisp seal of her hard-won achievement. She hung it above her bedside lamp in the spare room, the same room where Emma had first slept just months before. The next morning, she donned her uniform, for the first time stethoscope around her neck, Emma wrapped snug in a sling against her heart. Lily laced her sneakers for school, and Jack poured pancakes onto their plates as though marking a small celebration. "You look official," Lily said at the table, eyes wide. Mia laughed, scooping syrup over her own stack. "Official and on call," she replied. "Let me show you something." After breakfast, she led Lily and Jack to the spare room, gently placing Emma on the carpet. She backed away, hands raised in play, and said, "Ready, Em." The baby sat up, wobbling on her soft legs, then tipped sideways onto the quilt. Emma paused, studying the floor, and then rocked to her feet, arms stiff. With a burst of determination, she reached toward Mia, one foot in front of the other. Lily gasped. Jack leaned in, breath held. Emma teetered, then took a second step, 2-3, before Lily rushed forward to catch her in a triumphant hug. "She's walking!" Lily cheered, and Mia scooped Emma into her arms, tears glinting in her eyes. That afternoon, after Emma napped and Lily did homework by the window, Mia donned her nursing jacket again, loaded her diaper bag with extra blankets and bandages, and kissed Jack on the cheek. "Be good," she said, voice gentle. Jack smiled, watching her shoulders square with purpose. "Bring me home your stories," he replied. Mia drove into town, Emma bobbing in her wrap, and clocked in at the local clinic where she'd volunteered before her maternity leave. The waiting room hummed with the murmur of neighbors and the soft coo of infants. Mia moved between exam rooms, checking vitals, guiding anxious parents, and offering the calm compassion she'd learned as a patient herself. Emma peered over her mother's shoulder, at each new face smiling shyly. Patients greeted the duo with warmth. Dr. Turner called the receptionist by mistake, and Mia corrected her gently. Nurse Turner, while grinning. By late afternoon, Mia returned home carrying her stethoscope and a prescription pad alongside Emma's favorite wooden rattle. Lily bounded to the door, and Jack was leaning on the cane, whistling a soft tune. "How was it?" he asked. Mia set the rattle in Emma's hand and perched on the stoop. "Good," she said, voice flushed with the day's triumphs. "I helped Mrs. Mallory manage her diabetes. And little Jackie finally stopped crying when I held him. Emma even made a new friend, a toddler her age." Emma waved her hand in that shy toddler way. Lily squealed. Jack guided Mia inside, brushing a hand over her scrubs. "I'm so proud of you," he said, voice thick. Mia leaned into him. "It feels right," she said. Spring turned to early summer. The cabin's yard was carpeted in wildflowers, and the garden Mia had planted with Lily sprouted carrots and radishes. Jack repaired the fence while Lily and Mia tended the rows, Emma crawling among the greenery on wobbly knees. Mia knelt to guide her as she plucked a leaf. "Okay?" she asked. Emma grinned and brought the leaf to her mouth for a quick nibble. Lily laughed, and Jack called from the fence. "Family meeting," he announced. They assembled at the picnic table, sun filtering through maple leaves like golden confetti. Jack tapped a jar of honey and a loaf of fresh bread. "Sunday pancake supper," he declared. Lily cheered. Emma clapped her hands. Mia opened a mason jar of jam she'd made from neighborly strawberries. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her jar. Jack lifted his slice of bread. "To family in all its forms." Lily nodded solemnly, and Emma squealed with delight. That evening, as the cicadas began their song and the sky blushed pink, Mia rocked Emma on the porch swing. Emma's tiny legs kicked in time with the swing's arc, and Lily sat at Mia's feet, sketching the scene in her notebook. Jack joined them with iced tea and sat beside Lily, watching Mia and Emma. "Look at her," he said softly. "Just like you were learning to walk, she's learning to find her own rhythm." Mia hugged Emma to her chest. "She's teaching me too," she murmured, "about courage and patience." Under the rising moon, the Turners, Jack, Lily, Mia, and Emma, gathered around the porch light. They shared stories of the day the stethoscope left behind at the clinic. Jack's stubborn fence post that finally gave way, Lily's new sketch of Emma's first steps. The cabin, once silent and empty, now thrummed with the rich harmony of their lives. Every repair, every meal, every step forward a chord in their shared song. In that moment, Mia realized her own rebirth mirrored Emma's, from winter's cold confinement to the promise of summer's warmth, from fear's tight grip to the freedom of new purpose, from daughter to mother, from stranger to sister in service. And as Emma reached out for Lily's hand, toddling toward the porch's edge, Mia knew that the choices she'd made, leaving, returning, serving, had woven together a tapestry of love that would carry them through any season to come. The June sun lingered in the sky long past dinner, flooding the Turner cabin with golden light that danced across the knotty pine walls. Inside the living room was a patchwork of sold postcards, scribbled notes, and fresh letters, every scrap evidence of the family's shared journey. Mia sat at the desk by the window pen, poised over stationery, while Lily perched on the arm of the couch beside Emma, who babbled and batted at the ceiling fan's reflection in the glass. Mia read aloud from the letter in her hand, voice bright with amusement. "Dear Mom," the familiar scrawl began, "thanks for teaching me how to help people. I know you care for me and all the rest of your patients, even when you're tired. Emma and I love our cabin adventures, especially the time we rescued that stray kitten and you bandaged its paw." She looked up, smiling at Lily and Emma. Lily giggled at the memory of that tiny gray kitten, and Emma's tiny hand reached out to touch Mia's cheek. Jack entered from the kitchen, carrying a plate of freshly baked blueberry muffins, Lily's favorite. He bowed dramatically, muffins held aloft. "For my favorite writers," he announced. Mia accepted one with a grateful smile. "Thank you," she said, nibbling a berry-laden crumb. Lily hopped down to join Jack at the coffee table, and Emma waddled after her, clutching the edge of the couch for balance. The cabin brimmed with the easy laughter of a family at home. Jack slid into his armchair, Lily curled against the cushions across from him, and Emma toddled over to press her palm to Jack's knee, then giggle when he tickled her under the chin. Mia set aside her letter and scooped Emma onto her lap, wrapping her arms around both girls as they nibbled muffins and sipped lemonade. Later, when the sun had shifted westward, Jack fetched his guitar. The three settled on the wide wooden porch, Lily between Mia's legs and Emma in Mia's arms. Jack strummed a soft chord, one they'd practiced back when melody was the key to unlocking Emma's first wail, and began a lilting tune about fields of clover and new beginnings. Mia harmonized her nursing scrubs, replaced by casual summer linen, and Lily added her bright little voice on the bridge. Emma squealed in delight, clapping her chubby hands as the notes floated across the lawn. As dusk approached, the porch light revealed flickering fireflies weaving through the darkening pines. Jack set down the guitar and retrieved the wooden box from the hearth, a treasure chest of letters, both written and received. Lily helped Mia unlatch the lid and pulled out a folded note addressed to Dad, written in Lily's careful scrawl. "Thank you for the snow angels in spring and for teaching Emma to walk in summer. You're the best dad ever." Jack's eyes glistened as he read it aloud, his voice thick. He folded the paper back and reached for another, this one from Mia, filled with gratitude for the home they'd shared and the second chance they'd all been given. Lily leaned against him. Emma nestled in at his side, and for a moment the world felt perfectly still. Inside, the kitchen clock chimed 8 times each echo, a reminder of time's passage and life's precious moments. Over pitchers of iced tea and slices of rhubarb pie, they spoke of the future Lily's dream science project on local bird populations, Emma's new toddling milestones, and Mia's upcoming schedule at the community clinic. Jack listened, offering gentle advice and knowing smiles. When Mia spoke of her next training seminar, Jack squeezed her hand. "I'll manage the cabin," he promised, "and Lily and Emma will keep me busy." Mia laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. As night deepened, they migrated back to the living room. Lily fetched her favorite picture book and curled up in Mia's lap. Jack returned to his armchair with Emma perched on his knee, her eyes heavy with sleep. Mia read aloud, voice rhythmic and soothing, weaving the girl's journey into the fabric of bedtime lore. When the final page turned, Emma yawned and Lily stifled a snore against Mia's arm. Mia carried Emma upstairs to the nursery, now painted a gentle sage, and filled with handcrafted shelves for diapers, toys, and the nurses' manuals that balance service with motherhood. She tucked Emma into her crib, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Good night, my little hope." Lily fluttered in behind her, planting a kiss on Mia's cheek on her way to bed. "Sweet dreams, Mom." Lily sighed sleepily. Downstairs, Jack flicked off the lights one by one. The cabin returned to its quiet heartbeat clocks ticking in harmony with the steady rise and fall of the beds upstairs. Jack stepped onto the porch one last time, breathing in the cool night air scented with pine and fireflies. He gazed at the window's warm glow and smiled, thinking of the letters that lay sleeping in that wooden box, letters that told of rescue, rebirth, and unwavering love. Under summer's long light, they had planted seeds of kindness and now laughter, and Emma's giggles echoed through the once silent home. From roadside rescue to these homecoming days, 3 lives had been reborn. Strangers woven into a family by the unexpected kindness that first brought them together. And together they looked toward every dawn with hope shining brighter than any strain of verse.